As you can see from my latest upload, I've recently gotten into Dispatch. It just won Outstanding Story-Rich Game of the Year, so I just want to express that anyone who has even touched the game during development, I'm so grateful for you, I love you, you've made one of the most amazing works of fiction to come out in years. It shouldn't be all that surprising given some of the people behind it, that this is an absolute gem, and I don't think that they could have really done anything to iron out the story more. But I do think that one thing could have been made clearer, which is what I'm going to talk about today. We don't like Invisigal at all in the community. Rightly so. There's like a small subsection of largely men who are mostly driven by lust when they say that she's incredible, but she's not, and I think that's the point. A lot of people have issues with her from a more meta perspective, but I'm actually here to express that my opinion on the matter is that every issue the community has with her is intentional. When we are first introduced to Visi, she is doing one of the probably most egregious things that she's done in the entire game, which is she is assaulting Robert by watching him change without his consent. And for those who don't know, yes, that is classified legally as assault. And this isn't the last time that she will assault him throughout the game. She is a walking violation of the law, let alone HR, and while she seems to soften up a little bit as the game goes on, unless you play your cards perfectly, no matter what you do, Visi will not be redeemed. She will become a villain and disappear from Robert's life forever, regardless of his feelings towards her. And a lot of people are initially sympathetic towards her because the way that she behaves makes her read as somewhat of a teenager. 18, 19, 20 at the oldest, but she's not. In canon, she is 27 years old, and this is how she acts at 27 years old. If anyone knows a little bit about psychology, this actually makes a lot of sense. If you are trapped in an echo chamber of bad behaviour, then you are going to continue to exhibit that bad behaviour. Visi was very clearly abused growing up. This would explain her lack of boundaries and hypersexuality, volatility, her manipulative behaviour, her lack of accountability. I really think I could go on ragging on her in this video, so I won't. And in my opinion, this is all intentional, that this doesn't get redeemed. All of these behaviours are typically caused by years of psychological and physical abuse during adolescence, whether that's as a young child or as a teen. This kind of behaviour isn't going to be ironed out in the span of a couple of weeks, let alone a couple of days in which the game actually takes place. But you still have the option to romance her. Despite the game's frequent displays of how negative of a character she is, and despite every instance where she is present, the game is showing you how difficult it would be to redeem her. You, as the player, as Robert, may take it upon yourself to try and redeem her yourself. And I think this is actually people stumbling into the point of Visi's character. Dispatch is about superheroes, people who are driven by an intense desire to use the abilities that they have for good. It is in their nature, in a realistic and in a narrative sense, to help people, often at a detriment to themselves. We hear this in the first episode of Dispatch, where Robert explains to Blazer how he totaled his financial stability so that he could continue to be Mecha Man, with even a dialogue option to express that a part of why he did it was because he enjoys helping people. Something I thought about a lot before I ended up recording this was Robert's house. Well, his flat, it's not a house. How minimalistic it is. It's even commented on by Royd that it's so empty it makes him think that it's some sort of serial killer bunker. Robert is the sort of character who will neglect himself in order to have more room in his life to help others. And with that in mind, him and Visi are a perfect fucking match, because we are shown as players at every single turn why we should not be helping Visi. Because Visi, through it all, doesn't want help. She only joined SDN to get through to Robert, and not in the kind of sweet romancy way that we're led to believe is happening for most of the game. If you play your cards right, she does genuinely fall in love with him, but before that point, it's more of an obsession. It's an empty idolization of who he is and what he does for her. And aside from that, she wants to get to him to help Shroud to get the Astral Pulse. It's not a very positive foundation of a relationship. And of course, Robert would fall for something like her, because she can't help herself, so he wants to help. He who has a completely empty apartment aside from a single plastic chair, his suit, dog, and a pillow, which isn't even for him, it is for the dog. Of course, he would fall for someone who so desperately does not want help. He feels the need to swoop in and save her. And the only way we can save her is if we completely disregard ours and Robert's boundaries and morality, trust her under the most unreasonable circumstances. Only then do we get the good ending. Otherwise, she returns to villainy, because she never wanted to be better. And that's not to say that she's just some evil person. I really don't think that she's that one-dimensional. I think it's because she doesn't know anything else. Yeah, I mentioned people who are surrounded by terrible circumstances. They're stuck in an echo chamber of bad behavior. And that's not because they have no desire to be better people, but it's because they genuinely believe that that is how the world works. That it is good versus bad, that it is a dog-eat-dog world. And so, Visi, she doesn't want to be a hero, but she does want to be a better villain. She wants to overtake Shroud. She wants to gain power. She wants to be in a position where she is safe, where she has influence over herself and other people. And that doesn't align with Robert's goals. And that doesn't align with our goals either. We want her to succeed. We are rooting for her in the same way that Robert is, because we think we can help. Because as we're playing, it's a video game. Generally, you do A and B, and you get C outcome. If you pick the right dialogue options, and if you smooth talk her enough, the game developers will have written in an ending where you get some kind of reward for that. But that's not how people work. I'm often plagued by a very common theme in my life, which is a lack of control. I, like everyone else, cannot control how people work. I can't control how people think. And the reason that's frustrating to me is because I can't control whether or not somebody has the same goals as me. I want to take care of myself, and that is my utmost priority. I can't guarantee that the person that I'm sitting next to has taken care of themselves as their utmost priority. What if they fall short? What if I have to step in? And I think that's the point that Dispatch is trying to get to. You can't help someone who doesn't know how to help themselves. And for a game all about superheroes, and how I just explained they work, it's very thematically appropriate in my opinion. Because what they do in fiction, these beacons of hope and determination who can save anyone, is just unrealistic. That even if you have completely alien, all-powerful abilities, you just can't help everyone. Because people will only do what they want to do. You can't force someone to do something they don't. Then you would just end up being like Visi, constantly crossing Robert's boundaries, constantly forcing him to disrespect himself, because she wants him to be someone that he's not. Not someone who helps her, but enables her, serves her goals. And as I said, I think it's very apt that Robert would go for someone like this. There are various hints throughout the game, including a single line from Robert that confirms he suffers from depression. He has mental health problems. And so it's very predictable that he would struggle to vouch for himself, that he would end up becoming a victim of hers. People found it incredibly unsatisfying when they found out that Visi can't be redeemed unless you romance her. And I guess that's because they don't find that narrative to be as appealing. You know, it's not as satisfactory to put all of this work into a person, into the right choices, and then have it all fall apart. And I understand that some people play video games as a way to escape from the real world, but is that not the most realistic thing? That it doesn't matter what you do. It's Visi who needs to do the work, not Robert. I mean, Robert needs to do work, but on himself, he has personal problems. Now, I think people missed this point. I think people were so distracted in their grief over the fact that they'd invested time and love and affection into this character, only to see her go back to square one by the end of the game. And it is supposed to hurt. It's supposed to be painful. It's supposed to be sad because you've learnt to see past her faults, and then all of a sudden, this ending that you felt like you were promised, that you were owed, has been torn away from you, and now all of the actions that she'd taken a part in prior to the end of the game are so much less forgivable because you realise that she was never going to get better. And I think there's a lot to think about there. Ultimately, the bottom line is that, let's say that you do romance her and you see her get better, and you look at that and you go, well, that's proof that she has the capability to be a good person. But she doesn't really do that. That's Robert. Robert makes her better. Robert puts in that work. The fact that that version of her does not exist without him is kind of all you need to see. And people are upset about that. And I think for a lot of people, it's because people are complaining about all the things that she's done and how heinous they are, but I think it's because people want to see her redeemed. And they're upset that she really wasn't. In no ending of the game has she really redeemed herself. And I like that. I'm sorry, sue me, but I really like that. I like that message. I like what it puts across. It's such a common trope that we see, some people are struggling and all you need to do is lend a helping hand. But I think in a world where I see it more and more, where people are destroying themselves trying to help the people around them, sometimes, only sometimes, do you need to let it go? Anyway, thank you for listening to my little rant. I have very strong feelings about Visi. I actually think she's probably my favourite character in the whole game. She's perfectly disgusting and villainous, and she's exactly how I would imagine a typical villain would act outside of the cliche tropes that supervillains tend to treat other people like in these sorts of universes. She so perfectly plays the victim and gets under your skin, and I just like her a lot. And so that's my take, is that she's supposed to be shit. She's supposed to be a bad person, and there is nothing you can do about it. I think in a game that's all about choices, I think having her as the sort of antithesis of that message is really fun. That you can make your own choices in life. You decide what you do with it. But that's exactly it. You decide what you do with your life, not other people's. I think that's why the overall narrative remains the same. That, budgeting reasons. But I think if you squint at it, you can find a symbolic reason that really makes you feel better about the fact that you want to play more of the game, but there isn't more of the game and we gotta wait for season 2. Absolutely love it. I've already said a big thank you to all of the developers, all the artists, all the voice actors. There's just, Dispatch is one of my favourite games now.